Welcome to the online hustings for the position of UCU Vice President. This is the official hustings described in UCU's rules. Welcome to all the members who have joined this webinar to listen live. The recording of these hustings will also be made available with captions in the coming days. We have two candidates for the position of Vice President, who I will now introduce in the random order drawn by the scrutineer during the production of the voting material. Peter Evans from Ealing, Hammersmith and West London College, and David Hunter from City College, Norwich. I would like to thank you both, Peter and David, for standing in these elections, and I'd like to wish you both good luck. You will be great. Candidates will have 3 minutes to deliver their opening statements. I will call on candidates to give their statements in the order that I have stated. Candidates will then have 2 minutes to answer questions. I will vary the order in which candidates are asked to ask the questions. Candidates will then be given 2 minutes to sum up at the end of the debate. There is a timer in use, and if a candidate is still speaking when their time is up, I will ask the candidate to stop. All the questions will be asked by me as the chair. They were chosen from questions submitted by members and branches and were provided to candidates 48 hours in advance. I'm sure I don't need to remind candidates of the need to be civil. I will now ask candidates for their opening statements, for which you have 3 minutes. Peter, over to you.
Thank you very much, Maria, Vice President, and thanks to the officers, the officials for organising the hustings. And David, hello, how are you? So I'm pleased to be here. I'm delighted to have been nominated by friends and comrades across the UK. At present, I'm a member of the NEC, representing LGBTQ+ members, where I serve as National Chair. I work at West London College in Hammersmith as a lecturer in business, where I also serve as Vice Chair of my branch. I also I remain a proud member of the Labour Party, where I'm an activist within the Labour left. So what do I stand for? On democracy, bringing UCU closer to the local membership. This means rank and file organising, building elected strike committees and implementing Congress decisions, achieving delegate entitlement for the equality standing committees to Congress, giving greater prominence to equality issues, building on local support between FE and HE branches, where we can work together in UCU Rising and respect FE struggles. What about workers' rights? Well, defending pay, pensions and working conditions, abolishing zero-hours contracts and ending casualisation, reducing excessive workloads, ending the gender and race pay gaps, repeal all anti-trades union laws and defend the right to strike. On education, so much to say, but resist mergers and course closures that deny future generations access to post-16 education. Defend academic freedom, challenge marketisation of education, and campaign for better funding in post-16 education. On equalities, fighting all structural oppressions of race, age, gender, disability, sex, sexual orientation. Tackling deprivation of disadvantage in colleges, universities and other centres of learning. Resist the attacks on Black academia, ensuring equality is here at the heart of our union and at the heart of UCU's bargaining agenda. On health, COVID is still here. UCU needs to support members who have long COVID and support measures to ensure safety in the workplace. You know, UCU members educate many health professionals. We must support campaigns for better funding of the NHS and social care. As a member of UCU's International Working Group, I work to stop the state-sanctioned murder of LGBTQ+ people around the world. stand in solidarity with my Palestinian siblings and support their struggle for a state, and support workers in Ukraine in resistance to invasion and the struggle for a social Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter. David, over to you for your opening statement.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you to those who nominated me into the offices and people who made these hustings possible. And thanks to you for attending these hustings or for watching them later from the UCU website. I hope that the hustings are really useful for you to help decide who to vote for, but even more, I want them to enthuse you so you can help get the vote out. You can go back to your colleagues, your colleague members, and make sure that they watch these hustings, watch the General Secretary hustings, engage in this election and vote, because it's really important that we get a really big vote in this election. Members' voice is really important to me. 3 years ago, I did a bit of transformative training, which was the Organizing for Power training, and it emphasized listening and engaging with members. And that is at the core of everything that I do in the union. I took that back to my branch. I engaged with as many members as I could in my branch and as many non-members as possible, listening to them, finding out their issues, what they wanted changed. We put in a claim, the first one for years, and went into dispute. Through that maximum engagement with our members, we knew the issues that motivated them and what actions they were prepared to take. And we were able to take some very well supported strike action and a really powerful invigilation boycott. We won the best pay deal we've had in decades. We won improved conditions for casualised staff and additional pay increases for the lowest paid here. And now my branch is healthy, active, it's tripled in size, and we're ready for our next challenge. That's a bit of background about me and my union work and how I work. And essentially, I think we can replicate this success across the UK, and that victories at the UK-wide level will come from how we build at a local level. But having gone through the process, I know the struggles that branch reps and local reps face. And that's what I want for our union, is to focus our resources on branches, on local reps, to build them, to enable them to build strong, powerful branches for members, because that way we can make wins and improve conditions for our members year on year, whilst building the power necessary to make those wins at the national level. And I know I can't do that on my own, which is why I'm standing on a platform with Joe Grady, with Janet Farah, with other fabulous like-minded candidates. That candidate list can be found on my website and on Joe Grady's website. So go on that, have a look at those candidates. But most, please get out, get the vote out, talk to your colleagues in the union, and let's make this turnout in this election really big, because then we'll know what the members want.
Thank you very much, David. And now we are moving to the first question. And the first question I will ask both candidates is, what should UCU strategy be over the short to medium term? Should we be focused on consolidation, industrial action, another marking boycott, or something else? And this question is first to David. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. When I first looked at this question, I immediately thought, which UCU? We go all over the sectors, HE, FE, so many different members, education and non-education members. But I assume, because it talks about the marking boycott, it's an HE question. But I'm going to answer it as if it works across all the sectors and issues, because we'll have an HE question later where I can address those specifically. And I think that short term and long term, our strategies across the sectors should be the same. Over the short term, we focus on local wins to build power and win for our members, emulating successes such as Novus Prison Educators' successes, where they increased membership and won ballots. And long term, our national campaign needs to use that power along with sister unions, to reform funding for the education sectors. I'll talk about that more later. But in terms of medium term, strategies need to be different for our different sectors. In prisons, we need a national prison educators contract under the Department for Education, not the Ministry of Justice, and we need to protect members. In adult education, we need to fight casualisation, defend courses and stop redundancies. In FE, Wales has the CETR and social partnerships coming along. That's going to face our members with big challenges. In Northern Ireland, we need to keep pressure on now that Stormont's returned, getting money into wages and contracts in FE. And in England, we need to achieve a national contract and workload agreements and pay parity, of course, with school teachers. I'll talk about that more later as well. In HE, we need to defend TPS for the post-92 institutions. We need to defend courses and prevent redundancies that are coming along the line. And we need to always combat casualisation. So medium term, different strategies for different sectors, but short term, building, and long term, that campaign.
Thank you. And the same question to Peter.
Thank you very much, Maria. I think we have to start with our democratic processes and how we use them to engage members in agreeing the way forward. Union democracy is essential to the process. It's not an optional extra. We need to involve members in debate, in branches, regional committees, at annual congress, at special sector conference if needed. We should use survey and consultation tools as a supplement, not a substitute for our democratic processes. We must ensure full reporting back to members from negotiations and from national meetings so that members are well informed and feel confident that they are being kept informed. In FE, our priority must be to restore national bargaining in England, so national bargaining on pay and conditions of service. We need agreements which are agreement, not recommendations. To do these things, we need national aggregated industrial action. We also need to campaign strongly for better funding in the sector. In HE, our priority must be to continue to advance the issues in the 4 fights. These are pay equality, casualisation and workloads. We need to organise UK-wide action to resist the wave of redundancies and to defend TPS, which is coming under attack, with the decision of government not to fund increase in employer contributions in the post-92 sector. In all sectors, our terms of education policies need to oppose commodification of post-16 education. Learning is an active process that students engage in. It's not a product that you can buy something off the supermarket shelf. Of course, unions should consolidate the gains that we've made, for instance, where we've had good agreements on workloads, but we need to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question is, what is your primary focus? And Peter, over to you first.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, so my primary focus is on building UCU as an effective democratic trade union. I believe that the union is at our best, we are at our best when we are united on the basis of having a full democratic debate about our objectives, tactics and strategies. So where would I like to see UCU at the end of my 4-year term of office? I would like to see UCU as a respected voice for the profession, making the case for good quality post-16 education, adequate funding thereof. I would like to see the government and employers listening to and engaging with UCU. I would like to see all educators in all sectors significantly better paid, with the overwhelming majority of staff on secure and permanent full-time or fractional contracts. I would also like to see security of pension provision. We should remember, after all, that pensions are deferred salary. I would like to see university and college staff able to enjoy their jobs and feel a sense of achievement in work, rather than feeling exhausted and overstretched. I would like to see universities and colleges making serious progress on implementing equality policies for Black, disabled, LGBTQ+, migrant, women staff and students. I'd like to see the sector valuing their international staff and students and educating all our students in world citizenship. I would like to see UCU as a union, which is one of the leading unions in the TUC in building international solidarity and learning from experiences of workers internationally. If we look at issues such as the climate emergency or how to respond to challenges of AI, we have to understand and respond to these issues in a global framework. On that basis, I would like to see UCU as a union which has near 100% density in our existing colleges and universities, because that's the good way to do it, but we still have a lot to do. Thank you.
Thank you. And the same question to you, David.
Thank you, Maria. I asked myself this question when I started union work, and my first answer to it was that unions and I should work to improve members' terms and conditions. But I quickly crossed that out and replaced it with a primary focus of organizing members so that they can win on the issues that matter to them. So rather than assuming what matters to them and what matters to you, it is a focus on members, on listening to members, engaging as widely as possible with members, listening to their experiences, their issues, what they want, then putting all that into our union work and organizing the members themselves around it so that they can win. And that means win, which is the second thing that is my focus, is winning. It's really important that we win and that we keep winning. And to do that, we need to follow winnable strategies. We're not disputes for dispute's sake, not repeatedly entering into a pattern of industrial action, but building power, like Peter said, trying to build up to that massive density, taking action that the majority support, that we know the majority support because we've listened to them, and working with our fellow unions, just as Peter said, through the TUC and our education unions to make national campaigns that are really powerful, that are unstoppable. So really, my primary focus is and always has been members, what they want, and organizing them to win it.
Thank you very much. The next question is, in FE, what can the nations learn from each other? And this time, I'd like you, David, to start first.
Thanks. I won't be talking about Scotland and FE because the EIS bargain there in Scotland, but I will talk about Wales and Northern Ireland. And in those terms, Wales is the gold standard really for FE. They have nationally bargained contracts and national agreements on things such as workload, and they have pay parity with school teachers. And there's a lot that England can learn from the actions of UCU in Wales. They achieved these things through strong unions, because the Welsh branches are strong. They achieved them by working together with other education unions. They didn't go it alone. They worked together with the other ones. It took time. It took over a long period. It used really long-term strategy. And they did it in social partnership with the government in Wales, not in dispute with them. So they did it as part of a social partnership with that government. Now, the nations greatly differ in political environment. So the political environment in Wales is different from England and Northern Ireland, but we can learn about that long-term strategy, about keeping up the pressure, about working with other unions in England. Northern Ireland is different. They've had a tough time recently. They've been in dispute for 2 years. They've taken some really powerful actions. They still have the poorest terms and conditions in the UK. But again, we can still learn from them because they have again worked with their sister unions, education unions, putting pressure on government over the long term. They've recently been out on strike with their sister unions, and they've had innovative actions like a register boycott, which is really interesting to me. So we can learn from them, and gladly, Stormont has come back. And now they can move on to making sure that they improve those terms and conditions for their members. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the same question over to you, Peter.
Thanks very much, Maria. Yeah, I mean, David, I agree with a lot of what you said there. And you've hit a lot of nails on the head. My comments are based on my experience of visits to Scotland, Wales, and the north of Ireland, and observing the TUC conferences in our devolved nations as well. If trade unions are dealing with a social democratic government, which talks about partnership, and as a regular practice consults with unions, invites union representatives to sit on government working parties, etc., then there will be a different dynamic. And that's what we can find in Scotland, in Wales. There is that different dynamic. Unions feel more confident, feel more empowered, and are more respected by their members as a result of that interaction. It's a world away from the Conservative governments in Westminster, which generally exclude unions from the consultation process. And do you know what? I have to say that sometimes being a member of a trade union in the Westminster context is like being something unpleasant found on the sole of a shoe. There are, of course, risks and challenges to partnership working, but it's a different starting point. So another other thing to mention about FE in Scotland and Wales is dealing with the different bargaining context. David has already touched on that. In Wales, I think it's great that they've got the Workforce Partnership Council playing such an important role between public and engagement in the public sector in terms of education. And as somebody with Irish heritage, I'm absolutely delighted that the Stormont Assembly has been restored so that education in the north of Ireland can get back on track, and that the lecturers in FE in Northern Ireland, in those 5 regional FE colleges, can get paid a decent salary. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next question will be about HE. So as candidates from the FE sector who will nevertheless represent both HE and FE members as an officer, what is your vision for HE? And this question goes to David.
Hi there. So obviously I work in FE, but I have my usual way of working is listening. So I've listened to people in HE, worked in conjunction with local HE branches, and they've done amazing things. We've had the USS win with the recent news about their restoration and the one-off payment for eligibles. It's great news. They've won ballots, aggregate ballots, and taken action, including the MAB. But through that, they have given up a lot, including suffering massive pay deductions. I think our HE members are amazing and deserve a serious long-term strategy, which isn't just the promise of more strikes, more conflict and further hardship. We all know that HE, the structure of HE and the funding needs reform. We need to deal with our reliance on overseas students. We need to deal with the student number caps. We've got the TPS and post-92s to deal with. We really need a national campaign on reform, and that's a big job of work with our sister unions. We don't need to do it alone. We can work together, but it will take time to organize. And so while we're building this, we can concentrate on building our power through those local wins. There are lots of material gains to be made locally for a benefit of our members. We can win on casualization, we can win on migrant members issues, we can win on the TPS, and we can win especially on redundancies and course closures that can be happening. That can all be done. We can benefit members while building our power, and then we can use that power in our national campaigns. So I do stand on a platform with Jo Grady, and on her website, gradyforgs.com, we do have a vision for HE, which goes over that in much greater detail if you want to take a look at it.
Thank you. And the same question to Peter.
Okay, starting with democracy, Maria and David. So every candidate will talk about democracy. For me, democracy means respecting our union structures and increasing the opportunities for members to feed into these, especially true in the HE sector. This includes rank and file control of disputes. So members should have debates, they should have votes in branches, which are fed through to our regional and national structures. Policy and structure must be set by members voting in our sovereign bodies, our sector conferences, not the GS or the NEC. Elected officers must enact what members vote for without prevarication. Strike committees can organise and coordinate their actions with elected delegates from striking branches. I will support our structures, our strike committees, our branch delegate meetings. Poorly worded surveys and undemocratic YouTube or ex-Twitter briefings will not be used on my watch. National strategies, not by branch, but branch by branch resistance. So local action cannot just solve structural problems, redundancies, restructures. They must be resisted with the full force of the union nationally. We must explore all avenues, stop and reverse attacks on the arts and humanities. Branches facing redundancies must equally and adequately be supported with negotiations for organising strikes and enhanced fighting fund access. We need binding agreements against all casualisation across all sectors. We urgently need a coherent and political strategy for HE to tackle unequal pay. I support a special HEC to be called now to get our defence of our sector back on track. We cannot proceed without policy mandated by the sector's sovereign body.
Thank
I
you.
support the aggregate ballot
Please
across
sign.
FE as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question our members and branches submitted was, what does member engagement mean to you? And how would you develop it within UCU? Peter, it's your turn to go first.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that we'd all agree that higher membership density is very helpful in increasing UCU's political leverage. But I feel developing the engagement of our existing members is more critical to increasing our leverage and winning by numbers. So an engaged membership across post-16 education is key to our democratic processes and developing effective strategy, which will be backed by members' commitment. So how do we achieve that? Within thriving branches, significant numbers attending local meetings to debate issues and motions. In open debate, all of us develop our thinking. We benefit from the opportunity to persuade colleagues of our position, to be persuaded of theirs. Sometimes this leads us to change our minds. As a result of COVID, many branches now hold online hybrid meetings. These can facilitate engagement for those overwhelmed by workloads, those with caring responsibilities, those with disabilities. Hybrid meetings in particular do more to achieve a wider spread of chairing duties, so that the use of chat functions, for instance, does not exclude members, but enables the use of captions to engage more members. This can be used at a time when many branches would struggle to organise, for example, signing at their individual meetings. At branch level, we know institutions within HE and FE have recently taken industrial action, accompanied by picket lines. COVID reinforced our need to consider how picket lines are, that they are vital sites of exchange of engagement, and could attract disabled members to those picket lines and those with caring roles as well. So picket lines and teach outs that went hybrid and sometimes wholly digital offered activities such as book sales, baking competitions, and some of our future picket lines offered chairs and food to sustain members. All of this made UCU picket lines much more accessible and fun places for the first time for less experienced members.
Thank you. And the same question for David.
So member engagement, as I've said already, is really important to me, and it's at the center of organising and my work. I think, from my opinion, our power in our union comes not only, as Peter said, from the action that members are willing to take, but also from the numbers that are willing to take that action. And so it's important that we build that power through maximum engagement. And we do that in the traditional route, talking to members, one-to-ones, face-to-faces, finding what matters to them, consulting them as we go through disputes, tying their issues to union business, and then taking action and bringing members along. And that includes getting them to the committees, getting them to branch meetings, getting them to Congress. Absolutely believe in that traditional route that Peter was talking about. Plus, using our new technologies, including hybrid meetings, just to access as well people who remote work. There's a lot of remote working now, and we need to learn from branches like the Open University to engage those members too. But that traditional route doesn't interest everyone. And we need to get as many staff interested as possible to be as powerful as possible. Members who are not activists, who don't want to be in the meetings, who don't have that fire, also need to be engaged and need to be ready to come out and need to be willing to take action. And we can do that through those conversations, using new technologies, but connecting members through their commonalities and their interests. For example, the Black Members Network. We can also engage members on industrial issues. Examples in FE T-levels, new qualifications coming in. Members can be engaged on many fronts and be ready and involved in our union.
Maria, you're on mute.
I am so sorry. One of our members asked, when I used to be a delegate to the old AUT National Council, it seemed to me that retired members played a significant role in the association's affairs. How do you regard the role of retired members in UCU generally? And this is first for Peter.
Thank you very much. So, retired members can make a very valuable contribution to UCU because they can provide a long-term view and context to many of our current issues and collective agreements. The historical memory strengthens the trade union movement. We need unity and solidarity across the generations. Sometimes governments, maybe this one that we've got in power at the moment, try to divide workers along generational lines, while in fact attacking everyone. UCU has got around 4,000 members in retired members branches, and a similar number who have chosen to stay in their workplace branches. The choice to stay in workplace branch seems to be more common in the pre-92s, maybe because in some cases employers allow people to hang on to their old work email addresses, which doesn't happen in FE and post-92. Retired members in workplace branches often help out with casework and union organising. I welcome the fact that UCU now has annual meetings for retired members, for the retired members branches and a retired members committee. In fact, I've spoken at a couple from time to time. I congratulate UC staff and the retired members committees on the recent production of a handbook for RMBs. This handbook allows UCU to see where and how retired members contribute to UCU. RMBs are active in many areas, supporting workplace branches, helping with Get the Vote Out exercises, campaigning around health and social care, representing UCU on local trades union councils, being involved with the National Pensioners Convention, and taking up other issues such as green issues, campaigning for better public transport, especially buses in those rural areas. If elected as VP, I look forward to working with our retired members more, and I hope at the end of our working life, we all get out alive and with a decent pension.
Thank you, Peter, and the same for you, David.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with Peter about the need to use that historical memory and the experience to guide us in our new fights, because organizing over the generations doesn't really change. And it's essential we keep that continuity of knowledge and action. And I think that retired members, as Peter's outlined, have substantial role in our union. There are two main routes for them to stay involved. Retired members can be in branch, can stay in the workplace branch, where they can be active, be part of committee, stay active locally, vote, or they can go to the regional retired membership branch, where they can go to the annual retired members meeting, they can join the retired members committee, and they send 2 representatives to the NEC. And through both routes, members can go to Congress and send motions to Congress. So there's a significant role in our union for retired members, as there should be. There's also a national role, which is the trustee role. And I just want to name drop Steve Sangwin, whom I spoke to. It's my way of working. When I found out this question, I reached out to retired members, including Steve, and asked about how UCU works with them. And he is standing for trustee role. So I just want to give a shout out. Please vote for him. He's an amazing man. So there's many ways that retired members can stay active, and really it's essential that they do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. The next question submitted by a branch is, what will be your method to lobby the new UK government to increase central state funding to universities to allow for a reduction in the need for overseas students, which are basically used as piggy banks, and to prop up HE across the country? And this question is for David first.
UKHE attracts international students. That's a testament to the skills of our HE members and their reputation abroad. Those students bring social and cultural benefits to the UK and to UK institutions. But bear in mind recent warnings that UK institutions could be in trouble because of the drop in overseas students. It's really obvious that UKHE is too dependent and relying too much on that money to keep them open. What we need, I'm sure we'd all agree, is sustainable, publicly funded institutions. That funding, money, is at the heart of so many of our disputes, and we really need to put it front and center in our campaigns. We need to have that central campaign of increasing funding and reforming the funding model for higher education, but also for further education, adult education, and prison education. With the power to achieve that, with our sisters unions, we'll be able to take that reliance away and get back what we need and what we want: sustainable, publicly funded institutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the same question to you, Peter.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank the member who sent this question in. Whilst my current role is in FE, I've worked across post 16, and I've used my service as an elected officer in UCU to develop an understanding of the specific challenges that each part of UCU faces. Within HE, our members do not personally accept this characterization of overseas students as a piggy bank or a cash cow. It's their privilege to educate and support overseas students, as it is their privilege to educate and support domestic students. Unfortunately, marketisation has resulted in a system in which VCs choose to use fees on real estate development, vanity projects, overseas neo-colonial projects, and engorged senior management teams. There's a range of potential solutions to the underfunded marketised system. In my view, education is a public good, which society has a moral duty to provide, and this would result in greater economic equality. However, as a Labour Party activist, I know that the likely next Labour government has a poison chalice awaiting them. In attempting to soothe the nerves of capital markets and marginal voters, Labour has chosen to guarantee a closed purse strategy based on the inequitable Tory tax plans. There therefore is little scope for them to move in. However, we need to examine other potential solutions. Sector-wide caps of student numbers could be examined to distribute intakes more evenly. Maintenance grants to be introduced for disadvantaged students should be widely welcomed. Indeed, after this husting, I'm off to Westminster to attend a special general election briefing with Morgan McSweeney, Director of Labour Party Campaigns, Committee Room 14 in the House of Commons, and I'll be sharing that message with him. So I'll let you know what he says next week, when we're in Cardiff, I think, for the next hustings. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our next question is, if elected as Vice President of the Union, you will become one of the officers for your sector, Chair of Sector Committee, and in due course, Union President. Thinking of your experience of sitting on committees or chairing, or considering a past chair or officer you may wish to emulate, what qualities do you hope to bring to that role, and how will you, through your chairing, endeavour to make the democratic bodies of the Union more functional, or enable them to get through business? Or what creative changes would you suggest to make the democratic bodies work more efficiently? That's a big question. Over to you, David.
It is a long question, but it raises an important issue of that it's a pity that we don't get through our business. Last Congress, we didn't get through all the motions, and those motions didn't get through are remitted to committees, which don't get through them either. And that is us as a union letting our members down. And so we need to focus on that, focus on our members, focus on what matters to them. Use that maximum engagement to focus on what matters to them, what they need us to sort out first, and then prioritize that work. We can do that. We're a union of researchers, of educators. We can engage widely. We can find out what is really the priority of a maximum swathe of our members, and we can prioritize that work. Practically, for committees and Congress, you have to make them work. People are giving up their time, and you have to make it worth it. And that means preparation, it means political work, it means forging links, finding compromises, building support to try and get that important business done. I already through this, I've said, my normal way of working is working with people. And that is how I will work as Vice President, forging those links, finding the business that is important, and we can agree and we can get through and get done. If there's one person I had to emulate, it actually would be Janet Farrar, who I thought chaired the last Congress really well. I thought she was an amazing chair of it. It's a difficult job to chair Congress, and I think she did really amazingly. So just a shout out to Janet, who is standing in a UK FE elected position. I know that I'm giving shout outs to people and asking you to vote for them, but that is again how I work. I work with people. So thanks, Janet, and vote for Janet.
Thank you very much. And the same question to Peter.
Thanks very much, Maria. Yes, getting through the business, David, absolutely right. And that is the key function of the chair. It's regrettable that not all our chairs have been able to get through the business. I take that as something that is really serious. It would be my duty to chair the FEC, to chair the UCU's Further Education Committee, to authorise local industrial action when necessary, serving on different UCU committees, becoming President-elect of UCU after 2 years as Vice President and President-elect, as a custodian and ensuring that business is achieved and that we get through business. So what experience can I bring to that table? Other than being vice chair of my local branch now, chair of UCU National LGBT Committee, vice chair of Equalities, former FE chair of the London region, outside the union, chair of Vauxhall CLP branch in Kennington, a founding member of Stonewall, Unite, deputy chair, London and Eastern, and way back in the day, an elected councillor, deputy leader of Lambeth Council, but that is going back into the past. But I picked up some good tips about how to chair meetings. I believe the characteristics of good chairing include politeness, fairness, knowing the rules, explaining procedures clearly as one goes along, ensuring balanced debate, making the judgment about when members are ready to vote, equality and disability awareness. Commitment to upholding the union rules and constitution is a vital quality for a union president. Even when they don't work for you personally, or you may not agree with them, you have to get on with them. As I previously stated, hybrid meetings have increased member participation, which is great, but new ICT is not the panacea. I subscribe to the argument that electronic consultation processes should be a supplement and not a substitute for proper discussion within the union. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving to the next question, non-UK international members of the UCU are facing increasingly punitive immigration rules, such as exorbitant and discriminatory fees that often act as a double or triple tax, or rising salary thresholds for visa eligibility. What concrete steps will you take to tackle this hostile environment head-on and create a better future for all international members? Over to you first, Peter.
Okay, well, it's no wonder that the Tory government pursues racist policies. What did Rishi get up to? I think it was yesterday morning or the day before on that sleazy program, GBTV, whatever it's called, getting out a award of £1,000 and betting on it that he's going to send people on the planes to Rwanda. How despicable. They've purposely developed a hostile environment for both staff and students in post-16 education, a policy which is immoral and economically illiterate and bankrupt. UK post-16 education historically has been a hugely successful part of the UK economy. Focusing on HE sector has contributed to £130 billion in the academic year 21-22 through world-leading research, innovation and entrepreneurial creation. For years, this government has milked international workers with exorbitant visa fees and NHS levies. In 23, they revealed a plan to increase NHS levies by 15%, added sizable increases to visa costs, and to top it all, announced a massive hike in the minimum level of income needed to apply for a visa. Broad-based political pressure caused them to reduce the wage floor, but now it will be at a level where many international entrants to the sector will not earn more than the new threshold. The visa costs, the NHS levies are really set and eat into people's budgets. So this will diminish the UK's chance of winning large international grants, drawing on investment. We need it even more now that there's Brexit. This will make the UK a much less attractive destination for international students. As a Labour Party activist, I recognise the sad fact that a likely incoming Labour government will have limited spending capacity. Despite this, they can and must take immediate action to revoke the hostile environment. And again, I'll be calling on that tonight at the meeting that I'm going to, and I'll keep you posted in Cardiff. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. And over to you, David.
I think Peter's kind of sketched out the issues really well there, the visa fees and changes to income thresholds. I think the hostile environment really is a national shame. It's a shame brought on us by our government at the moment. And using that money, suggesting we should use that money to fund public sector pay it's appalling. Our migrant members are not cash cows to be milked, just like Peter said. I agree completely. We need to continue to speak out against this to government and in the media, but we also need to consider the human impact of these fees and the hostile environment on our migrant members. So we need to make sure that we organise networks to support them, to disseminate information and identify where the union needs to act. But it is for our migrant members to lead on this, and I want to thank the migrant members that I spoke to about this issue. We're blessed to have a migrant member standing committee. It's heavily HE based. We need to bring in members from other sectors, but they do amazing work, including a migrant members survey in 2022, to find out what migrant members want us to do and want us to lead on. And what was wanted was support at the local level, help with bargaining with employees to help them with reducing that cost burden on them. And so again, we go back to organising work, to traditional trade union work, organising the members, organising migrant members, getting those issues put into our local claims, getting reps on committees and taking action together with the full force of the union to try and relieve issues for migrant members, and always listening to the migrant members. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the final question that has been submitted by members and branches, and I'd like to tell you how grateful we are to all members and branches for these questions, is what do you think needs to change, if anything, in order to make real progress on the anti-casualisation agenda? And David, you're going first on this question. Thank you.
I was really appreciative of this question because I started in FE on casualised contract, on variable hours contract, and then I moved to sessional lecturing on when I never knew month to month and year to year how much teaching I would have. And I still remain partly casualised on a partly casualised contract. I began my work with the union as the anti-casualisation officer on the committee, and I served on the National Anti-Casualisation Committee. So it's really something that's dear in my heart. And I was so glad that as part of the four fights, casualisation was there front and centre. And we really need to keep it there as we go forward. It's a blight on all of our sectors. And really, we won't win it overnight. It's a long-standing problem. We need to focus long-term on this. Nationally, it's a money issue. We need, again, that funding campaign on the structures and the models across our sectors. But locally, we can make wins on this, but it still takes long term. We've had many local wins on casualisation, Newcastle, Bath, and that landmark win in the Open University, which took 9 years of work with lay activists and officials working together. It really is something that we need to focus long term on and make sure that we just keep on it every year, getting incremental wins for our members, building those up, and then getting to that point where we have the power nationally, keeping casualisation right at the centre of our struggles to get national contracts and get rid of it out of education, because it really is a blight on our sectors.
Thank you. And the same question to you, Peter.
Thanks very much, Maria. We need to look at how casualisation is different across sectors, such as adult community, prisons, FE, post-92, PGRs, and pre-92s. So myself, I've worked in ESOL as an HPL. I've worked in FE as an HPL. I've worked in HE as a HPL and in ACE as an HPL. Now I've got a permanent contract at last. So I've got a bit of a feeling for this that is, it runs throughout our whole education system, throughout all the sectors. And our casualised members have self-organised themselves outside union structures for many years. For example, the Corona contract. They've huge amounts of experience and are particularly affected by the failed ballot in HE. One way to increase democracy is for casualised members to have their voices heard and have their say in key discussions and in key decision making. We must strengthen our anti-casualisation work alongside the NEC reps for casualised members and anti-casualisation committee by increasing the numbers of members being involved in debates and consultation. Grassroots initiatives like the UCU Solidarity Movement and the Coronavirus Contract show different ways to organise. We should learn from their example. Regular, open, organising discussions online so members share ideas together is absolutely vital. It won't undermine the existing structures, it will strengthen them. My experience has shown that strike committees are an essential part of organising against casualisation. So we need to consider how to get our non-casualised fights together. And it is by non-casualised workers and casualised workers working together. So those on precarious contracts can be supported by those who are not on precarious contracts. There are local wins as well. I've run out of time. We had one at West London College, but I can't go into it. Maybe at the next hostings. Sorry.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to apologize to everyone watching and to UCU staff that we're going to overrun by a couple of minutes. We're now going to move to closing statements, and I would like to invite you, Peter, to go first. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Maria. We were talking about chairing meetings, and I think you've done an excellent job chairing this meeting today. And I've seen you doing excellent jobs chairing meetings at UCU. And I very much hope to be able to be there to support you as part of the presidential team. David, your answers were really interesting. I agreed with quite a bit of what you said. And thank you for your contributions. Really, it's a two-horse race. Members of the union have got a binary choice. A choice, David said he's on the same slate as Joe Grady, increasingly marginalised General Secretary, or a vote for change, the vote for democracy and a vote for me. I've worked across all the sectors in adult community, in higher education, in further education. I've experience in chairing meetings, local, regional, national, international levels within the trade union movement, within local government as a councillor, and in the NHS, where I sit on Guy's and St Thomas's NHS Trust. Thank you for considering voting for me. Together we continue to fight for education, workers' rights, and supporting our struggle for equality and diversity within UCU and the election sector. I'm supporting Sarah Weiner and the UCU left candidates for NEC. I'm grateful for McGaughey's support and endorsement, which I personally reciprocate for him. I also support the UCU second preference for Vicky Blake. So thank you very much. Time for a change. Don't forget to vote. Get the pens out, get the ballot papers out, and post it tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter. And your closing statement, David.
Thank you, Maria, for chairing, and thank you, Peter. I was really moved actually when Peter spoke about how he was casualized employment across sectors, and it just shows you that the issues that we face are really long term, and we need serious long term strategies to tackle them. That's why I'm endorsing Jo Grady, because I think she has those long term strategies to help us and win. To win. She has those long term strategies to win, and you can find those on her website, gradyforgs.com, and read them in detail. Lots of detail there: manifesto, visions for FE and HE, adult education and prisons. So get on there, give them a read. But I want to chime in with Peter and say that the really important thing is that we get the vote out, that we talk to our colleagues, get them to watch the recordings of these hustings, of the General Secretary's hustings, engage with the ballot information, and really get the vote out so we can really hear members' voices. I'm standing against marketisation for a national campaign with sister unions to reform education and reform education funding, against that marketisation of education across our sectors. And we need to work with like-minded people to do that. And to win, we need to build identity, and we do that
It's David, we can still hear you now.
Oh, I just got a message through my ear and it looked like it had cut off. But yeah, we can make wins for members locally, incrementally, build our power, and then build that national reform campaign to get the funding and get the changes that we really need to achieve public funded sustainable education in this country. I urge you to go out and vote.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to both candidates who made the time to present your views to us. Thank you ever so much to UCU staff who made this event possible. Thank you, UCU members, for watching live or for watching the recorded version of the hustings. I'd like to send love and solidarity to you all in FE, in HE, in adult education, in prison education. Stay strong. If you teach humanities or arts courses, we have your back. Solidarity to you all. Have a lovely rest of the day. Goodbye for now. This meeting is now closed.